When we round, we're looking for what is the place value you want to round to, and then we're going to see, do we need to go up or down to get to that place value? So when we're rounding here to the nearest 1,000, 4 is in my thousands place. So I'm going to say, is that closer to 34,000 or going up to 35,000? And since 4 is in my thousands place, I'm going to look, what do we have after it? I have 501. Since that's 5 is right there, 5 is my point where I'm going to go up. I'm going to round up if I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in that adjacent place. I'm going to round down if I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So since I have a 5, I'm going to round this up, and I'm going to round this to 35,000. So 34,501. If we round that to the nearest 1,000, we get 35,000. What happens if we round it to the nearest 100? Here's my hundreds place, the 5s. So I have 34,500. And now I just say, is that closer to 34,500 or closer to 34,600? And I bet you can tell already, because it's 5,001, that it's much closer to 34,500. But you can also use this adjacent decimal to say, oh, it's a 0. That means I'm rounding down. Everything else after it I ignore. I'm going to make them all zeros. 34,500 is my closest 100. What if I'm rounding to my nearest 10? Here again, I'm going to look right at my tens place. Now remember, there's no tens in this. It's not like 34,562 or something like that. Our tens place is 0 here, but we can still round. So we're either going to round to 34,500 or up a 10, 34,510. Looking at our adjacent place value, we have a 1, which means we're going to round down. So my nearest one is 34,500. So for this one here, we're going to try a bunch of different rounding places. So we have 55,919. The first thing we're going to do is round it to the nearest 10,000. Here's my 10,000s place. Right now I have 50,000 in the 10,000s place. And I'm going to use my adjacent place value, the 5, to see if I should round up or down. That's a 5, so I'm going to round it up. So 55,919 becomes 60,000. It's closest. Between 50,000 and 60,000, it's closer to 60,000. Now we'll round to a thousands place. At the thousands place, we've got this 5. We're going to look at the adjacent value, which is a 9. So again, we're going to round that guy up because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 round up. So this one is going to round up to 56,000. So in between 55,000 and 56,000, we're closer to 56,000. Continuing on to the hundreds place. How would we round this to the nearest 100? Here's my hundreds place. I'm going to look at the adjacent number, which is a 1. So this guy's going to get rounded down. So 55,900. It's closer to that than it is to the next one up, which is 56,000 and no hundreds. If I was rounding to my nearest 10, then I'm going to look at the adjacent one with 9. So we're going to go up. So 55,919 turns into 55,920. It's closer to 55,920 than it is to 55,910. We can't round to the nearest ones place because we don't have anything after the decimal. So now that we know how to round to different place values, we want to consider what is actually the most helpful place value to round to. So I have here the population of Washington State, 7,785,786. And we want to just consider, is this helpful to round to the nearest 10? Would that clarify this for people? Would it be useful in an article? Would it be helpful to round to the nearest million? Like, it all depends on your context and what you're doing it for. So if we were looking at rounding to the nearest, for an article comparing different states, then million might not help that much because there might be a lot of states that are close to 8 million. But if we're trying to clarify between other states that have similar populations, maybe we would want to round it to the nearest 10,000. And now we can say, oh, this is Washington, and a comparable state has, 7,940,000. If we were comparing Washington State to, the population of Italy or something that's much larger, then maybe we just want to round it to 8 million. And we say there's about 8 million people in Washington, and then we can compare it to something else. It's unlikely that we're going to care a lot about the smaller digits in a big number like this, but you could. What about a number like the US population? So we have, again, this is from 2022, 335,442,654 people. And this number is probably changing like by the second, right? Because there's so many people. But consider this one. Would you round this to the nearest million? So here's my millions place. I have a 4 after it, so I probably want to round that down. I could just say there's 335 million people in the US. Or if I'm maybe looking at growth from one year to the next or over a period of a decade, maybe I care more about those thousands that are changing. So maybe I want to round it to the thousandths place, which here we have a 2 in the thousands and the 6 is adjacent. So we want to round that up. So maybe we're looking at how it's changing at the thousands. It really is just going to depend on your context and your purpose, your audience too, of who you're talking to and why about this number.